It's important that country governments are willing to invest in the development of these programs in a sustained way, and that they also are willing to invest in the operations of these programs, which in many countries is just not the case. It's very important, now we are in the digital age, that systems also move to the digital age, and that manual paper-based systems are being replaced by digital systems that come with all kinds of advantages. ICT is important, including the communications aspect and the possibilities that you have not only with the internet but also with the mobile phone networks that provide good coverage in many developing countries. The vital events that are being registered through a civil registration system are rare events, and therefore make it very difficult for the government to provide service to register those events. Because of that, the Civil Registration Service has to look for partners with which it can work. The most obvious one is the health sector. The health sector normally would have a better footprint in the country, would have more locations where people are active, and they are intimately involved in birth and death. And then, depending on the situation in the country, there could be other departments that the Civil Registration Authority should work with. If that ID is not in the same organization, then it is very important for those two organizations to work together and be interoperable. Yeah? In some countries, the justice sector may play a role. It is important that when possible, the evidence from the civil register and national IDs come from the same database, and that there is not a duplication of sources of information on identity of a person, which can lead to differences between those databases. It is important to have foundational information in one place, a foundational registry for identity, but there is no necessity, and it is also not desirable to have functional registries to be in the same place, because if they would be, if something happens to that database, the consequences could be really very dramatic. People need to have a good reason, a good incentive to do the registration. It is therefore important that we look for the possibilities of linking civil registration to what people find advantageous to them. Distance and cost are very important disincentives to registration, and the authority needs to look at what can we do about them. There is room for resourcefulness and for inventiveness. Yeah? And I mentioned the example for South Africa where there's universal death registration, and one of the key explanations for that is that they do have licensed undertakers, who, by the way, are being mentioned also in the law on civil registration. They follow the rules, they make sure that the death is registered. But they also have an incentive themselves to know the person needs to be buried. So there is almost a market principle there that it is in the interest of undertakers, and if there would be irregularities, an undertaker could lose the license for his business.